Hi, welcome to this new channel that I've made. I wanted to make a channel like this because I have been posting on the rollerskating subreddit quite a lot recently because I've been struggling recently in many different ways. And one of the posts I made recently, I added a little message in the main title saying, are there any other autistic skaters out there? Because autism affects us in every way, basically, in life, and that includes in roller skating. No matter how much we do it, no matter how good we are, it will always affect us, and it will always make it a bit more difficult for us, or just a bit different, and we might have to do things differently, you know? And as autism always does, it makes us feel a little bit more isolated or whatever, so I thought maybe in making this channel, I can help build a little bit of an autistic skater community, and there is a possibility that maybe in the future, if I feel like it, I could maybe make some tutorials that are a bit more geared towards autistic people. Again, I'm struggling with roller skating recently. I am by no means an expert. I think I'm sort of on the higher end of beginner, lower end of intermediate. I'm somewhere in that space. So I don't know if I'm really qualified to do tutorials on things, but maybe I can at least start with some super beginner tutorials for maybe autistic people who want to learn to skate but are a bit too scared, or they watch a bunch of tutorials and none of them make sense and so they just have put it off or whatever. That's a possibility. But generally, for now, I'll just be talking about the struggles I face while roller skating. I had this vision of making this video where I'd be like sat in the courts with my skates on as if it was like a candid thing that I started filming while skating, but that just wouldn't really work for multiple reasons. One, this would probably be poorer quality because I have this microphone right here that I can use and make the audio sound much nicer, and I'm just recording this on my phone, but at least the microphone makes it slightly higher quality. Secondly, it's raining right now, so I can't go outside. I can't skate outside today, and so I'd have to wait a lot longer to make this video, but I want to make it now while I'm home alone so that I don't have to feel self-conscious of it. Oh yeah, and it's awkward filming in public, so I would probably be way more self-conscious if I was filming in tennis courts. So yeah, I'd imagine a lot of future videos will be in this setting, but I promise I am a roller skater. I can prove it to you. Let me get my skates out. See, I have a roller skate. I'll put it on the table here. It can like just be in the corner for the rest of the video. There's a few different struggles that I've been dealing with recently in regards to being an autistic roller skater, but I want to sort of make them separate videos probably because I feel like that would just make more sense. So I'm just going to focus on one today. One thing that I have been struggling with a lot recently, not recently, even for several years at this point, I cannot do transitions. I don't know why. I've tried every trick in the book. I've watched so many tutorials. I've tried and tried and tried. I've practiced like every week when I go to the public skating sessions that I go to. I would call it the rink, but it's not a rink, it's just a sports hall at a leisure centre, because we're in England here, we don't have roller skate rinks here really. I've tried for so long. I think there's a video on my phone somewhere of when I tried transitions for the first time, and I think that was like several years ago, and I have been trying and trying and trying and just not getting anywhere, and it's really frustrating. I can technically do transitions, but I just can't do them up to speed. I have to do them very slowly and that is not practical when you're actually skating. I want to be able to do them quickly, but it's just not clicking and it's really frustrating. I posted to Reddit a few weeks ago at this point, I think, some clips of me while I was out skating at the courts, practicing transitions, as I do all the time because I need to. And I wanted to see what advice people had. So I posted that video and I got lots of great advice from people, and I sort of went to the next public skating session with this mindset of I'm going to take on all this advice and it's finally going to click and I'm finally going to be able to do transitions, and this phase of struggling with it is going to be finally over. But that's not what happened. I turned up, I tried a transition like a few times and I was just as slow and struggled with it just as much, even though I was trying to take on all this advice that people had given me. It just was not working, and I got so frustrated and I had to quickly take my skates off and run out to the bathroom and hide away and cry because it was just so frustrating. It was a mix of that and other things that I'll talk about in another video, hopefully at some point. But yeah, it really sucked. I just got to this point where I'm like at the end of my wits with it. Like I can't deal with this anymore. I've been practicing transitions for literally like 2 years, I think. I'm done with it. I can't do it anymore. But it's so frustrating because every video I watch about like other skills you can learn related to skating, they always say for skills that you should have to do this, you need to know transitions, and that's just not helpful for me because I cannot do transitions. And even though a lot of people on Reddit, when I posted about the struggle that I was having, have said that I should just leave transitions for the time being and move on to something else, that's really difficult for me because a lot of the other skills I want to learn need transitions. And it's really difficult when I go to the rink and I see these kids who I've never seen them there before, so for all I know it's their first time skating, they look like first time skaters, and then by the end of the session they're doing sort of little backwards bubbles, and they're going to the, what do you call them? The people who work there. The word is completely gone out of my head. Of course it goes out of my head while I'm filming. They go to the people who work there and they ask them, how do I turn from forwards to backwards? And the people say, you just turn, and they give some like little bit of advice, and then suddenly the kids are doing perfect transitions in like 2 seconds. And I'm here like, I've been trying to learn this for 2 years and I still can't. Why? Why can I not do this? Watching kids at the rink is generally so like demoralizing. It makes me feel terrible because they're always so good at skating, and you know, they turn up having never skated and by the end they're like whizzing around, and it always sucks. But that's just kids. Being an adult beginner is a little bit difficult, but we push through. Anyway, so it gets me wondering like, why do I struggle with transitions so much? And I think part of it is to do with the fact that my body just cannot deal with the change in momentum. I think, you know, when you do a transition, you're turning from skating forwards to skating backwards, and that's a big change in momentum, and my body cannot deal with that. I've never been good at turns and things like that either. I just haven't really bothered even learning them because I know that I'm not good at them. So I think that's part of the reason why I cannot do transitions. And I've heard from other autistic skaters on Reddit that they have similar struggles with different skills. I've seen some people say that they really struggle with backward skating, and so they've just kind of given up. And I think physically, for autistic people, there are things that are more difficult for us. If you are unaware, autistic people have different sensory perceptions, and most people, when they think of like sensory perception, they think of the 5 senses, but there are kind of more than that, even though they sort of fit into the category of touch. But there is interoception and proprioception. And I hope I'm getting this the right way around. If not, I'll change it in editing. But interoception is your ability to sense your internal bodily cues, things like hunger and thirst and needing to use the bathroom, things like that. And proprioception is your sense of where your body is in space, where your limbs are in relation to you. And we can struggle with those, and we have a sort of different perception of those, and that can make things more difficult. If you're hyposensitive to proprioception, you will have less of a sense of where your body is in space, so it will be much more difficult for you to understand what you're doing with your body. And that means if for skaters who are less sensitive to proprioception, they might have a tendency to look at their feet a lot more because they need to see what their feet are doing because they can't sense it like other people can. If you're hypersensitive to proprioception, you're very sensitive to where your body is in space, but that means that the smallest movements can feel really big, and that means that you have a tendency to move in a lot smaller ways and not move as much as you need to in order to complete the move. Those are some of the reasons why being autistic can interfere with skating and can make it a little bit more difficult. Dyspraxia is also a very common co-occurring condition with autism, and if you don't know, dyspraxia affects your coordination and your movement, and it's very common co-occurring. I don't know if I have dyspraxia. I have questioned it a little bit in the past, but I just sort of chalk all that up to autism. I'm like, yeah, that's just autism. I haven't really looked too deeply into dyspraxia because I think, yeah, I can just blame it all on autism, right? I do struggle with coordination and movement. I used to do dance as a kid, and I was always really bad at it because I'm not really sure whether I'm hypo or hypersensitive to proprioception, but I have that issue where I feel like I'm moving a lot, but I'm not, and then I watch videos back of me dancing and I look like I'm dancing really lazily. And that's also why I struggle with learning sign language. I wanted to learn sign language for a long time, but I've basically given up at this point because when I try and sign, it looks like I'm mumbling, but in sign language. Anyway, that's part of the struggle of being an autistic skater. And it's because of these sensory differences that it can take us a lot longer to learn certain skills, and that can be really frustrating when we go online and we see these perfect skaters who can do everything perfectly, or they record their sort of learning progress and they learn these skills in like a week and it's taken us years to learn it ourselves. That can be really difficult to see, and it's difficult to not compare yourself in these situations because you feel like, why can all these people learn transitions in like an hour or maybe even in a week, and I'm spending 2 years trying to learn them and not really getting anywhere? That can be really difficult to deal with, and it kind of makes you feel like maybe skating is just not for me. Maybe I should just give it up because I am not coordinated enough to learn how to skate, or things like that. And that can be really difficult because I do really love skating. I love skating so much. It's one of the few sort of forms of movement or exercise, if you want to call it that I actually enjoy, and that I do it for the sake of doing it, not for the sake of exercising. And so when I get to this point where I'm feeling like I kind of don't want to do it anymore because it's getting frustrating, that really sucks. And I also find that skating is getting kind of boring for me recently, and that is another sort of struggle I have, and it's sort of tied into the fact that I can't learn transitions. I think if I could, I would go a bit further and it would be much less boring. But at the moment, because I can't learn transitions and I'm sort of giving up with that, it's like, okay, what do I learn now? But again, it's very difficult to learn other things when you can't do transitions, because a lot of transitions are sort of a key skill, I think, in skating. And so it's kind of difficult to find other things that I can learn that don't need me to know transitions. And so I get to this point where I'm like, okay, what do I do now? I don't know what to do now. I just skate around in circles, and that's kind of boring. And where I live in the UK, there's nowhere for me to go outdoor skating, really. There's some tennis courts down the road from me, and there's sort of a little skate park, but I'm not really a park skater. I haven't really tried much of it yet. I went the other day and I did a little bit up a ramp, which felt really good. So maybe, who knows, I'll become this great park skater, but I kind of doubt it. That's not something that's really appealed to me. What I really would love to do is like trail skating. I like the idea of just skating places and not necessarily doing fancy tricks, but just skating. But there's no trails here for me to skate on. It's not like in America where there's lots of nice paved trails to go down. We don't have any of that here. I tried searching on Google paved trails near me, and everything that came up was dirt trails, not paved trails. I don't know why Google doesn't know what paved trails are, but there are no paved trails near me. There are some that are like tiny little loops in like parks, but other than that, there's no trails nearby, and that really sucks. I wish there was more places I could go. I kind of have felt like recently, I wish that I could just skate to get places, If I want to go down the shop, down the road, I wish I could just put my skates on and skate there, but I can't really do that. A, because the pavements are terrible and bumpy, and that would be hell to skate on, so I'd have to skate on the roads, but the roads are too busy, and I don't have the confidence for that. And secondly, they probably wouldn't let me in the shop with skates on. Most shops don't let you skate, so that wouldn't really work. But I just wish I lived in a society where skating around instead of walking was accepted and was just like the norm, because that would be so much more fun than using boring wheelless feet. But anyway, I'm jealous of all the people who live in places with nice smooth roads and things like that. I don't live in that place. I used to live by the sea when I was at uni, and that's actually when I started skating. My first time skating was by the sea. It was along the promenade by the seaside, which was quite nice, but also I was skating for the first time. Technically it wasn't the first time. I did skate a few times as a kid, but it was that kind of thing where I just had some skates and I used to skate a little bit for like a week and then I'd give up, My first time probably skating as an adult in public. People are walking past and I'm there wobbling around like a newborn deer. And I was also alone the first time I went skating, so that didn't help, and I'll go more into that, having to skate alone because you can't find any friends thing, in another video. But I felt really self-conscious, I remember, the first few times I skated, and that's why when I first started skating I actually didn't skate that much. I would only skate like maybe once a month, if that, because I just felt really self-conscious, and it was a whole ordeal having to travel down to by the seaside because I didn't live right by the sea. I still had to get on a bus to get to the sea, and that was just a hassle, so I didn't want to do it too often. But anyway, I eventually got a little bit better and I got a bit more confident and I could skate along the sea, and that was nice, and I want to be able to do that again, but I just haven't got around to driving down to the sea again. It's not all that far, but it's still far enough that it would have to be on a weekend or I'd have to take the day off work to do that. So it's been really difficult for me to find what area of skating I want to lean into. I really like the idea of artistic skating, but I don't think I'll be very good at it because, again, I can't even do transitions after 2 years. I don't think I'd be very good at it. And park skating I find very intimidating and just not my thing. Jam skating I also don't really think is my thing because I don't really enjoy the sort of stationary skating of jam skating. I like to be moving when I skate. I think from an autistic perspective, I like the vestibular feeling of skating. I think it's kind of almost a stim for me to skate. And I've seen that from other autistic people too. We have the need for speed, you know? We want to skate around, and that feeling is quite stimulating, I guess. But I don't think I'd be a very good speed skater because I don't like going too fast, because that kind of scares me. But I guess now that I'm a better skater and I feel more confident, I do feel more confident going fast, but I don't like skating near other people. So I'd have to be like skating around a track on my own and have it just be timed. And that's also why I can't do roller derby. Roller derby scares the hell out of me. At the public session that I go to, they sometimes play Stuck in the Mud because it's fun for the kids or whatever. And I used to join in, but these days I just sit out because it freaks me out. I cannot deal with it. I cannot deal with people skating near me. It just really freaks me out. I don't know why. I get this fear of like our wheels getting caught in each other or something, or them suddenly sort of turning in front of me and tripping me up. A lot of kids have done that to me before. They'd cut across the flow of skaters and it just really annoys me, but I can't get too annoyed because they're children and they don't have as much spatial awareness, but it does really annoy me when they do that. And especially when you're playing Stuck in the Mud with kids and they're trying to catch you and they only have little arms, so they have to skate really near to you to catch you, and I'm like, don't do this to me, please. So yeah, these days I just don't play it because it freaks me out. And it would probably be the same with roller derby. I would probably not like it because I don't like people skating near me, but also sometimes I feel like maybe I should just give it a try and that might help me get over my fear of people skating near me. I don't know. Anyway, this has kind of just been a ramble. I didn't script this, so this might be a bit all over the place, but hopefully it makes sense to you and you can share your experiences. Are there certain skills, certain tricks that you find harder as an autistic skater? Do you think that being autistic affects you physically with skating? And if so, how? Let me know. Let's share experiences and make others feel less alone in the comments. And also let me know what other kinds of videos you want me to do that are skating related, because I might do some tutorials. I could maybe make some videos on like skate maintenance because I really love that. I get really into maintaining my skates. I've customized them quite a lot. I have some different trucks on them. I've had to replace the pivot cup a few times because I guess maybe because I'm a heavier skater, they get worn through very quickly. And it's frustrating because for these skates, which if you're wondering are Kaya Melrose Deluxe in shade Cobalt, these skates have a sort of rarer plate, I guess. I don't know, but it's very difficult to find pivot cups for them. I had to import them from France, so that was great. So yeah, I do a lot of skate customization and things, so maybe I could do some videos about that if you want that. If you want to know about how to customize your skates, things like that, I could do stuff like that. I like to info dump about that, and I could maybe do some basic tutorials on, you know, sort of beginner skills, how to skate forwards, how to skate backwards in a basic way, crossovers I can do, manuals I can do, but that's about it. So yeah, I'm definitely still a beginner skater, but I could make some videos on those things if you want to know how I do them, how I learnt them. I don't know, again, I'm not a professional. It might just be fun to sort of give my perspective and how I learnt to do these things in case that helps someone else. I think that is all I have to say for today. And again, I'll do another video another time, probably talking a bit about the feelings of loneliness I get, struggling to find skater friends, and you know, I go to the same place every week, but they still don't really know who I am, and that really sucks sometimes. So I might do a video about that in the future, but otherwise, I think that's all for today. Leave some comments, let's all share our experiences and feel less alone. Yeah. Bye!